most student athletes in North Alabama? Or about the fact that they are teamed up with the state's largest hospital-based sports medicine program to provide care to more schools in North Alabama than any other group? If you are, you have TOC Sports and Huntsville Hospital Sports Center on the brain. If you're not, you should, because Huntsville Hospital Sports Center and TOC Sports have partnered for more than 2 decades to establish a state-of-the-art team of certified athletic trainers and orthopedic specialists who successfully continue to meet and exceed the sports medicine needs of schools, athletes, coaches, and parents in our community. Committing to kids, committing to community, committing to care. That's Huntsville Hospital Sports Center and TOC Sports.
When you call most roofing companies, all you'll hear is, you need a new roof. Not when you call Fleming. At Fleming Roofing and Restoration, we're focused on your needs, whether it's an easy repair or a full roof replacement. Folks around here trusted Fleming since 1965 for all their residential and commercial roofing needs. And as the area's storm damage experts, Fleming knows all the ins and outs of the insurance claims process. Log on FlemingHSV.com to schedule your free estimate today. Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
From the University of Alabama, this is Crimson Tide Today. Its daily update on Bama sports and is brought to you by Everwood Treatment Company, the official treated lumber of Alabama athletics. Everwood, wood treated right. Hello again, everybody. I'm Roger Hoover. Alabama women's basketball picked up a gritty 84-78 win on the road at Ole Miss on Sunday. Here are post-game thoughts from the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Christy Curry.
Huge response from Alabama. I know I always say I'm proud of them, but that is unbelievable. I don't have the words today. To come into this environment, amazing crowd, and I just told them, watch them all leaving with their head down. I'm so proud of, coming over here in a tough environment against a top 25 team, a man down, and to have what we have on Thursday night. If you've ever wondered about these kids' character and who they are and the toughness, unbelievable effort.
Fell down 7-0 in this game. You called timeout with 8:43 to go. What changed in that, or what did you talk about, first of all, in that timeout with this group to eventually fight back in the first quarter?
Just give our kids credit. I thought we took us a second there, but I needed to do a better job. I called one early at Texas, but just trying to find the words to stay positive with them.
I'll have more in a moment.
Producing championship quality lumber is not an easy process, but at Everwood Preserving, it's our only process. Wood treated right. Everwood offers top-notch pressure-treated wood for decks, outdoor structures, commercial jobs, and more that you can build your reputation on. When it comes to quality, we're on the winning team. Visit your local Everwood dealer today and discover the difference for yourself. Everwood Preserving Incorporated, the official lumber of the Alabama Crimson Tide.
If you missed last night's episode of Hey Coach and the Nate Oates Show, presented by Alpha Insurance, catch it on demand on the Alabama Insider podcast, as well as a video archive on the CTSN YouTube page. Crimson Tide Today is brought to you by Everwood. Crimson Tide Today is a production of the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
97.7 ESPN The Zone. Welcome to Talkin' Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Scott and Drew.
And there you go. There you have it. We are off. We are running, and we are brand new. Of course, we're talking ball. 97.7 ESPN The Zone. With Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond, welcome in on a Tuesday morning. 256-576-4977. It's the number to the phone lines. You can join us throughout the program here on this Tuesday morning. And safe travels into work, into school, wherever you may be headed. Coming up later tonight, it is another busy night of college basketball, especially in the Southeastern Conference. Pair of games going to get underway at 6 o'clock. Actually, a trio of games get underway at 6 o'clock, and all three games. We've talked a lot about how deep and how good the Southeastern Conference is and has been so far early on this college basketball season. You've got three matchups beginning tonight at 6 o'clock. And all three matchups involve ranked versus ranked teams inside the top 25. That is how good this league has been. There's only 5 games tonight in the conference. The other 2, the 8 o'clock games, involve just one ranked team, which is weird. 8 o'clock, you get 5th-ranked Florida hosting Missouri, and then LSU hosting Arkansas. That's the nightcap. But the 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock games, 3 6 o'clock games, all involved ranked versus ranked opponents. Top-ranked Auburn. Now, the new AP poll did come out yesterday, and for the second time in program history, Auburn does top the AP poll. Auburn, number 1 versus 15th-ranked Mississippi State. That is at 6 o'clock. The other 6 o'clock game, 4th-ranked Alabama, 21st-ranked Ole Miss. The other 6 o'clock game, 8th-ranked Kentucky hosting 11th-ranked Texas A&M. Those are your ranked versus ranked versus ranked versus ranked versus ranked games. That looks like back in the power days of football right there, when you can say of the 5 matchups going on a Saturday, 3 of them are versus ranked opponents. I don't remember seeing that in the past very often, where 3 of the 5 games involved ranked versus ranked opponents, and 2 of them involve top 15 versus top 15 matchups. It's impressive.
Well, I mean, that's just how good the league is right now. And it starts on Saturday with the brunch game with Alabama going to Rupp, and that'll be 11 a.m. That'll be a huge game, especially if Alabama can hold serve tonight. They got, a bigger fish to fry tonight, though. They got to beat one of the 3 undefeated teams left in the league, Alabama being one of them, Auburn being the other. But they've got to take care of Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is led by Sean Padula, the transfer from Virginia Tech. He's a really good point guard, and really they've got a 4-headed monster at guard for Ole Miss. They're not nearly as big as Alabama, but they're really good on defense. They're really good at pressuring the basketball. They're one of the leaders in the nation in steals. I think Padula averages almost 2.5 himself, and they average 10 a game as a team. So they're really good at disrupting and pressuring. So Alabama at times has turned the ball over, had too many live ball turnovers. If they will protect the basketball tonight in Coleman Coliseum, I think they can get a nice win. No question about it, but they're going to have to protect the ball. They're going to have to continue to rebound like they have. Ole Miss is not the rebounding team that Alabama is, or even Texas A&M, so they've got to win that battle on the glass. They've got Dia, their big guy. He's a transfer from Belmont, and then they've got Jalen Brakefield, who 3 years ago transferred from Duke, but they don't have nearly as much size and length as Alabama does. They're perimeter oriented. And they make about 7 threes per game, so they're capable of shooting the basketball. But Chris Beard's teams are known for guarding and being able to, man up on you and turn you over. And so that's going to be the key. Alabama has to protect the basketball, needs to continue to win that rebounding battle. And Alabama's basically got a 10-man rotation. Now, there is a little bit of a question with Darion Reed. He was listed on the injury report as questionable. He's had an ankle situation. We'll see if I think they'll know by 4:30 late this afternoon if he's going to go. I didn't see anything near the end because he was on the floor in the game over at Texas A&M to see that he re-injured it. But again, he has had a little bit of an ankle issue, but hopefully he'll be able to go. But Houston Millette certainly, and Latrell Wrightson will be out.
Here is Nate Oates talking about tonight's challenge.
Ole Miss has been good. Their defense, if you look at SEC-only games, they got the best defense in the conference. They've been doing an unbelievable job shutting teams down. Our offense is going to have to be on point. They turn people over quite a bit. We've had issues with turnovers for large parts of this year. We had 15 of them against A&M. Ole Miss does some similar things defensively like A&M. They're different than A&M in some ways as well. So we're going to have to do a better job taking care of the ball. On our end, Ole Miss has a lot of really good players. I didn't think we did a great job on Phelps. We kind of let him get to what he wanted to do. believe Ole Miss has 7 guys that have scored 1,000 points or more in their career. We're going to have to guard them all. We're going to have to do a good job with the personnel and the scouting report, but they're good. I mean, there's 3 teams left undefeated in SEC play, us, Auburn, and them, and we've got them coming to our building. So this game's going to go a long ways in determining who's going to be in the mix to win an SEC championship.
That is Nate Oates. And then across the bench, you're going to get Chris Beard and the Ole Miss Rebels. Here is Chris Beard previewing it from the Rebels standpoint.
This is a first-place game. There's 3 teams in the SEC right now. They're in first place. We'll be in a game tomorrow night at 6 where 2 of those 3 teams are playing. So it's early in the race, but it's certainly an opportunity for us. We'll have to play our best game of the year. No different than when you get to postseason or when you're in championship contention. You got to try to play your best game of the year. That doesn't mean make every shot. That doesn't mean play mistake-free. But that absolutely means, we have to play well. Everybody that plays for us is going to have to play their A game. We're going to have to execute a game plan. But it's an opportunity for us. So it's a real opportunity for us tomorrow at Alabama.
Chris Beard and Nate Oates previewing tonight's game. Again, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. We'll have it for you. 6 o'clock. That game will be on ESPNU if you want to watch the television version.
Yeah, and, the pregame will start at 5 o'clock, and Brian Passett, Chris Stewart will be on the call. It's a huge opportunity for Alabama, to continue to kind of separate themselves and be at the top of the standings. And then, of course, you definitely want to continue to protect home court with what you got coming up on Saturday. We know what a challenge it is to go to Rupp, and Kentucky right now is one of the highest scoring teams. Now, Alabama's leading the nation in scoring. They're in 92 points per game, over 91. But Kentucky can also score the ball. If you look at Kentucky's 3 games in the SEC, they scored 106, and then they scored 95, 106 in a win over Florida, 95 in a road win over Mississippi State. They scored 69 in that road loss to Georgia. And I will say this, Kentucky's been giving up points. I mean, they're giving up over 90-plus points per game, so it's liable to be a track meet in Lexington, maybe the first 200 in that game. Now, Alabama's going to have to D up Kentucky, but Kentucky's a very good shooting team. I mean, Mark Pope, what he's known for, as a coach is being very creative offensively, spreading the floor. They shoot threes very well. They're a much better offensive team than the latter years under Calipari, even though Kentucky shot it well last year. But, again, the focus should be on Ole Miss. And Ole Miss is, I think, they're averaging 79 points a game. They're averaging nearly 80, but they only give up 64 points per game. So they're going to want to slow the pace down somewhat. I don't think they're going to want to run with Alabama. I don't really think they can. I don't think they have as much depth or firepower, even though they do have 4 good guards. No question about it, that are experienced. And you heard Nate Oates talking about 7 guys that scored 1,000 points and whatnot because of all the transferring and everything. But, Ole Miss is an experienced team on the perimeter, and Alabama needs to get off to another good start, pressure them, and kind of make Ole Miss uncomfortable. They need to turn Ole Miss over. They really didn't turn over at A&M much. A&M had less than 10 turnovers in the last game. Alabama had 15. Didn't seem like they had quite that many, but I looked at the final stats, and again, I think a lot of them were late in the basketball game when that's kind of how A&M made their run a little bit when they were down 76-61. But for the most part, since that debacle of a first half at North Dakota, where Alabama was only up, I believe, 3 at halftime, they were and I think they turned it over 13, 14, 15 times. They've really done a much better job of taking care of the ball since that time, and that's why they've been able to, even without shooting the 3 well, and just lighting it up from three-point land. Even though I thought they shot it pretty well in College Station, they haven't shot it as people thought they would. And so even without doing that, though, with the way they've rebounded, hit the offensive glass, and the way they've, attacked the rim and gotten to the free throw line, even though they've missed some, they've still been able to score the ball, and that's because they're deep and very, very talented.
All right, the other game at 6 o'clock, one of the 3 other matchups that is ranked versus ranked is top-ranked Auburn hosting Mississippi State tonight.
Yep.
Bruce Pearl.
AP poll coming out, and us being ranked number 1 in the country, I think it's deserving, considering the schedule that we played and the teams that we've beaten, the great teams that we've beaten, and the job this team has done. I don't know that we're the best team in the country right now. We're probably not right now because obviously we're not at full strength. Jedi won't play tomorrow against Mississippi State, but we're still a really good team, and so we'll prepare without him. It matters to me because making history at Auburn is matters, and representing the SEC, to have another SEC team to be number one in the country, and obviously all the teams that are ranked in the top 10, and right now 12 teams projected to be in the NCAA tournament from our league is unprecedented and historical. So proud of our league and proud of our accomplishment. When we were one back in 2022, we spent several weeks there, and I did feel like we were the best team in the country then. I did. And I just don't feel that way right now. However, maybe more deserving of the ranking now than ever before.
That's Bruce Pearl. So the question with Auburn is they were able to rally on Saturday at South Carolina without Janai Broome.
Yeah, last 13-plus minutes, yep.
It's one of those things where you see a teammate go down that you know, you all of a sudden sometimes you get that extra adrenaline because you want to – you know, you want to do something. You don't want it to whatever. You try to play a little bit harder sometimes in that moment. Now going in, you know you're going to be without him. Mississippi State knows they're going to be without him. How good, and we don't know how long he'll be out, but how good can Auburn be without Janai Broome going forward? Presumably, you would think probably 2, 3, maybe 4 games without him, but how good can they be without him?
They can still be a really good team, especially at home with that crowd. They're old. I mean, you know, Dylan Cardwell's played a lot of basketball for Auburn. You know, he's been through the fire. I know Chad Baker-Mazara, and I'm sure Coach Pearl's really happy about this. They'll very likely get another year out of him because of the junior college rule. They signed him out of JUCO after he was at San Diego State, and he's the ultimate glue guy, really good defender, can really shoot the three. He's someone that they need in the lineup to balance the floor, and I think he can. And then you know, they might even go with a smaller lineup. We might see more of Tahad Pettiford, maybe he and Denver Jones on the floor together. Denver is a guy that has played a lot of basketball. He's been really solid at the point guard spot for him. And I already said yesterday, Tahad, basically, I thought down the stretch that last several minutes, you know, on the road against South Carolina, won the game with his penetration, getting to the rim, dishing, also being able to make perimeter shots, go to the free throw line, knock down shots. So I just felt like he was kind of the difference maker. So, you know, he can continue to kind of expand his role. And so I just think overall Auburn's still got enough. Chaney Johnson certainly will have a bigger role with, you know, Jonai out of the lineup. And Chaney is an outstanding athlete, outstanding player who's had a really good year, been very efficient. They'll just probably need a little bit more from him tonight and need him to stay out of foul trouble. Certainly the Mississippi State's a good team. You know, they're led by Josh Hubbard, 17 points per game. He's a big-time scorer. He's capable of going off and getting 30, you know, if he gets into a rhythm, and I'm sure that's one thing Auburn's going to try to, you know, stop. And then they've got transfers like R.J. Melendez. It's funny, though. Claudio Harris is their second leading scorer. They only have 2 double-digit scorers on paper. And Harris is the other one from Boston College. R.J. Melendez, you know, at one time he was at Georgia. Now he's transferred to Mississippi State. He's nearly a 10 points per game scorer. But another guy to watch for him is a local kid from Ramsey High School. Certainly watched him play against Huntsville High and compete in the Huntsville City Classic. Keyshawn Murphy. In this day and age of portal transfer, he's been there his entire career, kind of waited his turn. And he's averaging nearly a double-double. He's averaging nearly 10 and over 7 rebounds. He's a kind of a stretch 4. He's about 6'9". 6'10". He can definitely shoot the 3. He has some perimeter skills, but he's done a good job under Chris Jans of improving and getting better, and now he's become a good SEC basketball player. They're probably going to need, if Mississippi State's going to pull this off, I mean, they scored 90 the other day against Kentucky, but they're going to have to, get a little bit of extra out of a couple guys, and certainly Auburn's going to have to be a little off, but I do think that Auburn, especially at home, is capable of winning this game. Just might have to do it a little bit different stylistically, and they'll also need, Cardwell fouled out on Saturday.
Yes.
They're going to need him on the floor because he's still not a big-time scorer, but he plays with physicality. He can rebound, and he is a guy that, now that he'll probably play more minutes and probably play the 5 with Jonah being out, you might need a little extra from him. It may be a situation where he may need to get double digits tonight.
And our good friend Chaney Johnson should get a little extra minutes in the paint as well. All right, 7:17. Let's punch the clock for our first break of the morning. When we come back, got a little college football conversation to get to. The ratings did come out for the Ohio State-Texas game. We'll fill you in on where it falls in Cotton Bowl history, as well as some Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers tie-ins. Got a lot of stuff to get through. We've only just begun.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Got an injury wreck, 565 and I-65, northbound to eastbound on the ramp. A couple of vehicles involved in that one. May be some blockage, but it looks like traffic's moving through the area. We got a wreck in Somerville on 67 south of Sharp Road. That one's got a tractor trailer involved, also an injury there. From routine care to heart failure, Dr. Randall Burns and the team at Huntsville Heart Specialist on Bob Wallace have the expertise to care for all matters of the heart. Captain Eck in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
Tom Luganville here for my friends at Woody Anderson Ford. Bobby White and his team take great pride in their service department, and you can see it the moment you walk into those beautiful new service lanes. And just like a championship team, they all work together to make sure your experience is second to none, whether you drive a Ford or not. Also, check out the gold-certified pre-owned inventory at Woody Anderson Ford for great deals every day. Stop by and see them at Jordan and Sparkman or at Woody Anderson of Madison on Hughes Road, or visit WoodyAndersonFord.com.
It's bowl season on ESPN Radio, including the college football playoff and national championship game.
The electricity, the atmosphere.
The Notre Dame Fighting Irish, the Ohio State Buckeyes, the college football playoff national championship, presented by AT&T. Coverage begins Monday, January 20th at 6:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN.
It's the beauty of college football.
97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Mike Rowe here with a quick question. Have you noticed the musty smell in your home? I hope not, because damp smells mean that you could have a crawl space problem. That's where AFS comes in, a groundworks company. They can honestly assess your situation and create a plan to waterproof your crawl space and get to the root cause of the problem. Schedule your free inspection at afsrepair.com/row. And while you're there, check out my latest dirty job. It's a good one.
Licensed in all states where work is performed. See website for details.
You'll love the expanded wine selection at Liquor Express. From special occasion to everyday table wines, they've got what you need. Meet your friends at the largest tap wall in Alabama with 105 rotating selections. Then take home a growler full of your favorite or choose from our 1,000 canned or bottled beers. Need help stocking your bar or planning your party? Liquor Express has a knowledgeable, professional, in-house staff that can assist you with anything from your bar to the planning of your special event. Visit liquorexpress.net for tasting specials, giveaways, and classes.
Hold your block until the whistle blows.
From SEC Media Days to the National Championship game.
This was a great team win.
We are 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
All right, welcome back. Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN, The Zone, 7:21 on a Tuesday morning, 256-576-4977. You can join the program over the next hour and change as we get you just ready on everything. Let's go out to the phone lines. Brandon is with us. Good morning, Brandon.
Good morning, Brandon.
Morning, guys. When was the last time at this point in the season that Auburn and Alabama were both top 5?
I can't ever remember it, to be honest with you.
Me either.
I mean, I know there's been years where they were both ranked at times during when Wimp and Sonny had it rolling. But when Cliff Ellis got Auburn at number 1 and they were unreal, Alabama was rebuilding under Mark Godfrey. That hadn't really started yet.
Yeah.
And that was basically a one-year mirage. After that, Auburn, fell back. They had the Chris Porter and all those guys. It was a special group, Scotty Pullman. They really had a good basketball team that, really, Porter was kind of the final piece to the puzzle. But out of junior college. But, yeah, I mean, I don't ever remember it, certainly not in the top 5. And you can make an argument that Alabama even has a resume that could have them ranked higher. But, again, that'll take care of itself. You got to win games. You're playing, a top 20 team in Ole Miss at home tonight that you got to beat. And then Auburn, they're number 1. I know you just heard Bruce Pearl. He said they're probably not the number 1 team in the country right now because they don't have Jonai. But they're still very, very good because most teams losing a player of the caliber of Broom, who's improved each year. This is his 3rd year at Auburn after he transferred from Morehead State. They wouldn't have beaten South Carolina on the road, but they found a way because they're well coached and they're old.
Well, I was looking at tickets last night for that February 15th because I said
the first one, yeah.
I said this is only going to get worse if they're both in the top 5. I said, as we move forward. And she looked at me, she said, so I take it you're probably going by yourself. I said, yeah, I may have to sit with some people I don't know. I said, so, but that's okay.
So you're trying to find like a single?
I may end up buying a single because she's got to work the next day.
Gotcha.
I can't remember what day of the week that's on.
No. Both Alabama-Auburn games this year, thank goodness,
they're on a Saturday.
Are on Saturday for
year,
once
yeah.
because in the past, including last year, they had a bad habit of putting them on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, and I'm talking about both of them. So this year, because of TV and I think the anticipation that they were both going to be very, very good, the SEC.
Games.
As a matter of fact, the second one, which is in Auburn Arena, the one that our compatriot Wes Neighbors always seems to go to, the one that's in Auburn, it's actually got Duke Carolina feel to it because they're putting it on the last day of the regular season it'll be played in Auburn. So
and it still could mean a lot.
It could be, for the regular season championship.
It could be, the way that everything's going.
That's right.
I'll tell them, who knows, we might end up being spread across 4 sections, waving at each other money-wise to make it work. And speaking of money, over the weekend, I shared something to tag Drew in it on Twitter that Brooks Austin shared.
Yeah.
And I knew eventually this was going to kind of come to the surface and start being talked about more. We wonder why we've got the craziness with these players moving and NIL. And realtors get 6% of a deal most of the time if things go well.
Right,
3 for the seller, 3 for the lister. And they will hunt you to the ends of the earth for 3% of the money. There's very few people that won't jump through hoops.
Mm-hmm.
These people are openly talking about 20% of what these NIL. Okay, that's crooked car lot money.
Oh, it is.
Buy
There's
here,
no
pay
question.
here, yeah. And we wonder why these kids are doing this. I don't think it's the kids. I think you got these crooked NIL agents that I get 20% of every time I get you a raise. So I'm on the phone all day, every day, middle of the season, after the season, during the season, calling these places. I don't think the tampering is as bad by the coaches as it is by these agents. And this has been allowed to go on. And it's been going on now for several years. 20%. I don't even think federal taxes are that high on the money they're making. And the NCAA created this monster.
Yeah, they did.
And it's not going to get better because you all of a sudden you threw money at people that didn't have it.
The NCAA created the transfer portal, but they didn't create the agents coming in and taking the money like they're doing. Now, the agents are countering by saying, hey, look, if in the Major League Baseball or NFL, when a player signs a a $300 million deal, we get 4% of that or whatever, and we make X amount of dollars. The agents are combating by saying when a college player signs and takes 20%, we're getting the same amount of money as we get from an NFL deal. It's just that the college players aren't getting as much money as what the NFL players are getting.
I would tell them to stick, and I could make the phone call myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
or my parents could. I'd be like, I'm not giving you a damn dime. Go away, leech.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I mean, whoever, I know the agents, and they're going to get their money. They're going to take their money. But at the end of the day, they are trying to make a living. I mean, they're trying to make a living, and they see an opportunity. They're taking advantage of the opportunity, and they're cashing in.
Yeah, that's this whole argument that, we're trying to get as much. No, an industry standard is a standard. And if they're getting more than 3 to 5%, which I think is what normal numbers I've seen in the NFL, that would be okay. But you're taking advantage of these kids because they don't know no better. People started coming in and throwing money at them, and they're willing to take whatever to get it. And we've talked about how long is it going to be before we see somebody in big trouble for owing money to the federal government? Because by the time you give your agent 20% of the money, I mean, you're already down 80% of it. How many of these guys are actually protecting themselves for what they're supposed to be doing? Granted, everybody's not getting $4 million like Carson Beck supposedly getting, but I mean, there's been a system created where it's the Wild West, and there's people saying that 20% is a starter number, that some of these bigger amounts of money that people are getting, they're getting more than that. And I mean, I'm all about people getting paid, but at some point, somebody's got to step in and rein this in, because it seems like the NIL recruiters are doing more to run college football than the players and the coaches right now.
Well, and the problem is, though, that some of these kids may think they need representation because they're from smaller schools and things of that nature, but you're not getting as much money. And then what I want to know are the majority of these NIL agents,
right?
Are they certified agents that could represent you if you were in the NFL? My guess would be no.
Right.
That they created these agencies and then they're just being gator-faced opportunists.
And that's the thing, though. I mean, of the people that are taking the 20%, how many of them are doing it? I mean, is a good agent, the smart ones, are they still doing the 5%?
Yeah.
You know,
I would think
most cases, the reputable
yes.
firms, are they doing what they're supposed to do? Or is some of these people sitting there in a back room with a low lit light saying, I'm going to get my 25% from so-and-so, and I'm going to make sure I cash in?
Mm-hmm.
It was just a weird dynamic, and I'd wondered how high the numbers were, but it's all of a sudden being talked about publicly.
Right.
And listening to these sleazeballs try to defend why they think they deserve this amount of money. I mean, somebody just needs to take a ball bat to their knees.
Yeah.
I hope it at some point somebody like Rosenhaus, some of these bigger agents will come in and say, hey, don't let them take this much money from you. Somebody that's a really good person in the industry. Granted, they get large amounts of money, NFL contracts, and Carson Beck's probably making more than.
How much is he getting paid per interception? That's what I want to know by Miami. I mean, with the millions they're paying him, how much per interception is and I know his girlfriend's a basketball player. She's a twin.
She's making
Everybody knows
more
her.
than what he is.
Yeah, but I'm just like, what's.
She's probably more famous, way more famous than what Carson Beck is.
I don't know if I'd go there. I mean, Carson Beck.
twin? Woo,
well, I mean, she's famous. I knew who she was, but I'm just talking about, hey, man, I mean, this is Carson Beck. He was a front runner for the Heisman until he started throwing the ball to the other jersey. But, I mean, so how much is he making per interception? Because let's be real here. There's two things. If he doesn't hurt his elbow and tear it, and then if he actually plays to the level he played even last year and Georgia doesn't get their ass beat by the Pukes and they're still playing, he's very likely a high first-round pick, and he's not going back to school. He's going back to school because he sucked, okay? For the most part, he did not play very well at all.
Let's get a break in, because there's something with Carson Beck there we got to talk about, and it could.
He regressed, in other words. He lost to Jalen Milroe twice. Let that sink in.
It could be related to Quinn Ewers. Got to get a break in when we come back.
Eddie Calvin Lelouch beat him twice.
Let's get him some candlesticks, too, while we're at it. Let's get a break in.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. Temperatures drop into the mid-20s as we head into the overnight early into your Wednesday morning. A mostly to partly sunny sky. Wednesday afternoon, temperatures once again climbing into the low and mid-40s. Still well below where we should be this time of year. Dropping into the mid and upper 20s as we head into the overnight early Thursday morning. A mostly sunny sky. Thursday afternoon, it does look like we are finally going to climb into the lower 50s across the Tennessee Valley. Upper 20s, lower 30s. By the time we get to the Friday morning commute, we're going to be warmer on Friday afternoon. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Got fire and rescue checking for smoke coming from the trees on the westbound side of 565 between downtown and Jordan Lane. Got 565 and I-65 northbound to eastbound. Got a wreck on the ramp there with a minor injury. We got one in Somerville, 67 south of Sharp Road that had a tractor trailer involved. Had an injury in that one. Dr. Sandman has the Somnodent, a safe, insurance-approved alternative for snoring and sleep apnea. Dr. Randall Sandlin, 350-CARE. Captain Eck in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
By now, you know about Eagle Masonry and Insulation, and maybe you know that Eagle also does landscaping and dirt work. But how about after paint work? Shower doors, shelving, and mirrors, all taken care of by Eagle, the same Eagle that takes care of all your masonry, insulation, and landscaping needs. Eagle brings the same level of expertise to all these disciplines, and they're ready to provide you with a free quote. The website is the same, insulatewitheagle.com, as is the phone number, 256-755-1556. Give them a call and see what Eagle can do for you. Eagle saves you time. Eagle saves you money.
Orthopedics. You're thinking bones, muscles, and joints, right? Well, what else comes to mind? Maybe your spine, therapy, or an arm cast? What about sports medicine? What do you think about when you hear that? Are you thinking about the largest orthopedic group in the state, caring for the most student athletes in North Alabama? Or about the fact that they are teamed up with the state's largest hospital-based sports medicine program to provide care to more schools in North Alabama than any other group? If you are, you have TOC Sports and Huntsville Hospital Sports Center on the brain. If you're not, you should, because Huntsville Hospital Sports Center and TOC Sports have partnered for more than 2 decades to establish a state-of-the-art team of certified athletic trainers and orthopedic specialists who successfully continue to meet and exceed the sports medicine needs of schools, athletes, coaches, and parents in our community. Committing to kids, committing to community, committing to care. That's Huntsville Hospital Sports Center and TOC Sports.
At Mr. Sparky, we're America's on-time electrician. Flickering lights and hot switches can be annoying, but they can also signal a major problem, or worse, an electrical emergency. So play it safe and leave it to the experts at Mr. Sparky. Trust our team of professional, clean, and friendly electricians. We'll get it done right and get it done safely.
You don't have to put up with any malarkey. Call 888-8-SPARKY.
Independently owned and operated, licensed in the respective state or county.
Hey folks, this is Arthur Seaton, managing partner at University Kia, proudly saying Roll Tide and War Eagle. Stop into University Kia today and shop one of the area's largest selection of new Kias, including Fortes, Seltos, Telluride, and Popular Carnival, and fully electric EV6. View all the great specials at universitykia.com and get pre-approved in minutes so you can drive home your new Kia you really want, because we want to see you in a University Kia.
Attention, attention, may I have the camp's attention?
Your home of the college football playoffs.
Playoffs?
Is 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Playoffs? Playoffs?
I want to spend some time with you, just the two of us.
Okay, welcome back. Talking Ball.
A lot more than that with these clowns.
97.7 ESPN, The Zone. So here's the thing, and yeah, we didn't touch on it yesterday, but I mean, Carson Beck is, we said that he had a no contact name by his thing when he went into the transfer portal, so that means he had already made up his mind.
Yeah, we all
knew exactly where he was going.
And it was basically one of 2 schools. I mean, it was either Miami, and then you find out his girlfriend's last. You talked about her just a minute ago. Basketball player, she's a twin, she's famous, she's got all this NIL money herself.
Yep.
But it was either going to be there or Oregon.
Yep.
But then this is kind of where the Quinn Ewers thing comes in.
It is. So if you back the train up just till Friday, in their pregame show,
Yeah.
ESPN on College Game Day, Pete Thamel sat down with Quinn Ewers. Pete Thamel asked him point blank, what is your plan for next year? Quinn Ewers kind of laughed, and he said, I'm going to the NFL. That's what he said in the interview. So they come out of the interview, and everybody on the College Game Day set was like, wow, he's going to the NFL. There was talk of him going to the college ranks, staying in the college ranks. Well, my, oh my, how 72 hours, 48 hours seems to maybe have changed Quinn Ewers' mind. Because yesterday afternoon, reports started to surface that potentially Quinn Ewers is doing a double take. And potentially, because of Carson Beck getting close to $4 million, possibly more out of Miami, depends who you ask, that Quinn Ewers has interest in playing one more year of college football because, like Carson Beck, his draft stock has plummeted in recent weeks. It's not as high as it once was, not as high as where it could be. And so Quinn Ewers potentially could end up somewhere else. And if you read the reports, such schools as
there's
Ole
one.
Miss,
Well,
Ohio
maybe,
State,
but no.
Alabama.
Shh. Give me a break
I'm
with
just
that.
reading what has been
Getting
put
text
out
messages from idiots yesterday. We got to have him. We got to have Quinn Ewers. We got to go get him. And I'm like, it's not going to happen, dude. We're not paying. I was like, I am not paying for Quinn Ewers $4 to $6 million
for 1 year.
He's a good player, but he ain't worth $4 to $6 million
for 1 year.
Is he still playing? That's all I got to say. I'm sorry, I'm not paying $4 to $6 million. Just not. That is not going to happen for one freaking guy who's not. I mean, I wouldn't pay that much for Cam Ward. Is he still playing? By the way, I mean he's been long gone, as they say. I'm not paying that much for that dude. I mean,
for Quinn Ewers.
I should have confidence in my coaching staff if I'm Alabama. I know Ty Simpson was behind Debbie Calvin Lelouch, but some of that was political. And, again, and he wasn't ready, but I think they can get him ready. They've got a really good high school player coming in. You know, they're actually trying to develop players, not just go out and poach them because they're like Mario Cristobal, who can't coach his way out of a sandbox as a head coach. Really good recruiter, great dude, but he's not a great head coach. Period. End of story. Stop pussyfooting around and stop just, and beating around the bush and just say it. He's not a very good head coach. If you watch their team play, they sure as hell didn't look like they were well coached. Okay?
So
sorry,
to
not
your
at all.
point about just bringing in quarterbacks and not knowing anything, Carson Beck arrived in Coral Gables yesterday to Miami, and when he got out of the vehicle, he walked into the facility.
I heard he got rid of the Lamborghini. I was told that he traded it.
Okay. Right before he walked into the facility, he meets Miami's offensive coordinator, Shannon Dawson, for the very first time.
Probably didn't even know he was the offensive coordinator, did he?
They had talked on the phone.
Oh, okay. At least they did that.
But that was it, briefly.
Right.
So it just tells you this is like NFL free agency at its
Except he's
highest
already
point.
agreed to come,
Yeah,
to
he'd
the
already
contract.
agreed to come there before meeting everybody and everything.
He hadn't met everybody. It's just
So-
Ty Haywood, the tackle that's been committed to Alabama for months and was supposed to sign in December, he officially decommitted yesterday.
But he's been decommitted for
behind the scenes,
Yes.
He didn't even have a scholarship to agree to, any paperwork to sign or whatever back in December. But now I guess he's finally going to start his January visits or whatnot before he makes his final decision, in February. Probably going to end up being a Michigan Wolverine. Guy's never been to Michigan, ever. It's just at all.
It's like Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, show me the money.
Show me the money.
Yep.
And I will be there.
It's like Laramie Tunsil when his handlers took him to Ole Miss. He said, "Who's Ole Miss?" He got off the plane for the visit. He didn't even know where the hell he was. Because he was going to go to Alabama, Georgia, maybe Florida, and they're like, "No, we're visiting Ole Miss." He's like, "What's Ole Miss?" He didn't know.
Somebody will pay for Quinn Ewers.
I mean,
somebody's going to pay for him if he ultimately decides to stay in college
That
football.
would be kind of nuts if he ended up back at Ohio State. But heck,
that was another school that was mentioned.
This happened with Alabama the other day. King Mack barely played at Alabama. When he got out there on the field, he looked like a chicken with his head cut off, playing safety back there. I was watching him against Tennessee take bad angles, miss tackles. He looked awful. He came from Penn State. Now he's going back. He just took a 1-year sabbatical, like Tyler Buckner. Buckner took a semester, went to Alabama, didn't do very well. They paid. Heard he got $340,000, and then probably enough to satiate him for a while. Then he went back to Notre Dame to play lacrosse. I think they won the national championship. They actually won it in something, and hopefully they won't win it coming up Monday. And then turns around. I think he's a wide receiver on the football team now. But again, he went back to Notre Dame. So it's pretty crazy, all this movement, man. I mean, guys.
But if you were advising Carson, if you were advising Quinn Ewers, if you were sitting there and he comes to you and you are the voice, you are the one to tell him. What are you telling Quinn Ewers? Are you telling him to go to the league, or are you telling him to play college football for another year?
Here's my point, and somebody told me this yesterday, and I kind of agree with it.
Right.
Now I know Bo Nix went over there for 2 years and certainly improved himself exponentially and became the 12th pick in the draft. Just finished a really solid rookie year, got his team to the playoffs. It looks like he's got a very bright future, things of that nature. Dylan Gabriel, he had a really good year, became a Heisman finalist. Now, do I think he's going to go high in the draft? Probably not, because he's a smaller guy. I don't know how much Quinn Ewers can improve his stock. That's my point.
Okay.
And I think – and then the quarterback class is weak. It's really weak in this particular cycle.
No, it is. It's not setting the world on fire.
To me, if I'm Quinn Ewers' agents and seeing things of that nature – if you interview well, if you work out well, if you do your job, I still think you can be a first-round draft choice. Because, again, what is the position that is overdrafted all the time?
Quarterback.
Everybody wants quarterbacks. And he's been highly productive. I mean, I know what some of the people around him are thinking. Go to Oregon, go to Ohio State. They got all these freaks, and you could get back to the playoff,
elevate your numbers
and
high.
Elevate it.
Yes,
but hell, you went to back-to-back playoffs with Texas, and you were on the doorstep of going to the finals this year. So you've won a ton of games. And again,
there's enough games on tape.
His throwing motion is what his throwing motion is.
That's my point. That's what I was just going to say.
I'll ask a question
right now.
Did Jalen Milroe improve from 1 year to the next?
No.
Even under a head coach that had a first-round pick in Michael Penix?
No.
He did not. So and is Steve Sarkisian a known quarterback whisperer?
Yes.
Yes, he is. So to me, I don't know that Quinn Ewers can improve himself enough. And so I would go ahead, roll the dice. I'd go out there thinking I'm no worse than a second-round pick. Hopefully I can improve myself and become a first-round pick, because I can remember when another guy that had a little bit of a different throwing motion wasn't considered a lock to be a first-round pick until he went to the Senior Bowl about 30 years ago.
Phillip Rivers.
Oh, there we go.
Phillip Rivers.
Hey, where's that commercial at? Ding, 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 ding,
Phillip
ding.
Rivers. Yes.
There you go.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm not trying to steal talent, heating, and air, the thunder
ding,
here.
Ding, ding, ding,
there
ding,
we
ding,
go.
Ding,
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 ding, ding,
yes,
ding.
Yes.
So that there, and he became a first-round draft pick, became a top 5 pick.
Yes.
And
everybody was talking about his.
He and Eli Manning were traded for each other, and we all know what he did over a storied, what should be Hall of Fame career.
Yes.
And now we're both getting so old. His son just got offered by Auburn.
I know.
He's going to be going into his junior year of high school at St. Michael's, which is, I believe, is his oldest son. And he has a baseball team, by the way. He does have a baseball team. I believe he has 9 kids. So I'm just saying. I mean, Gunner's going to be a heck of a player. He already is a heck of a player. Throws just like his dad. It's like going back in time. And so, but again, I'm not real big on the throwing motion stuff. Like that just all like all I know is, does it get from point A to point B, and can he hit a target? That's all I care about. I don't give a damn if he can throw it 75 yards. I don't care, if it, how quick is the release, blah, blah, blah. If it's quick enough and he's accurate and he gets rid of it, then he's good enough to me. And again, I just think, and Ewers is a classic, like, drop back guy. He's not a dual threat, man. This is not a dude that's going to be able to run. And neither is Carson Beck. But now, if Ewers was injured like Beck, I could understand it, or if he hadn't had as good a year. But I thought Ewers had a better year. I think he's healthy, and I think he can be one of the top 2 to 3 quarterbacks drafted, man. Now, I know things have changed and with some of this. Well, and this is why, look, man, this is just a mini version of what happened in the NFL when they had to have a rookie salary cap.
Yeah.
That's why they got to do this. These dang kids, even in college, shouldn't be going for payouts. I mean, and this is not NIL money where you're like, you just listed all them sponsors that Beck's girlfriends got. Where
okay.
she and her
Under
sister
Armour.
get,
They
yeah,
huge
where they
deal
get
with
where
Under
they,
Armour.
where they,
Both of them have an Under Armour deal.
But see, that's not an NIL payout from that standpoint. And I'm talking about from a collective. That's just signing deals and stuff like that. I'm talking about I'm sure Carson Beck has a signed contract with a collective at Miami, and he's getting like at least $4 million. That shouldn't happen. Like that needs to be capped, okay? And so if it was, then Beck would likely probably be continuing to go pro, or maybe he could get $1 million. Maybe they would be the capped salary.
Right.
But the only reason he and Ewers and guys like this are doing this is because, again, they're not first-round picks, and they're deciding, okay, there's not a cap on what I can make. So if somebody from a collective pays me enough, I can go, and stay in school.
Well, think about this. Think about Penn State made a lot of news yesterday because their running back duo is staying in college.
Mm-hmm.
They are not going to the NFL.
Yeah.
I am sure the Penn State collective,
Drew Aller certainly is thankful for that.
I am sure they wrote some checks out yesterday to keep those guys from going to the NFL.
Well, yeah, and Alabama retained a lot of guys. Look, nobody is not paying.
No, that is
okay?
that is true.
That's
true.
what I was trying to convince somebody yesterday who was on the Ewers to Bama train. Got to get him. I'm like, look, you don't want to allocate your money like that and pay $4 million for a quarterback or $6 million or whatever. Hellfire. If I had $6 million, pay $2 million to 3 defensive linemen, for God's sake. $2 million apiece, because they need defensive linemen a whole hell of a lot more than they need a dang quarterback, in my opinion. I think they need their defensive front needs to be better and more productive. Jeez Louise. I mean,
you're going to have to be smart where you spend the money.
I think, even Milroe, who didn't have as good a year as last year, still had bright moments and still put up numbers, should still even potentially be a second to third round draft pick, in my opinion. So the quarterback position did have some productivity, even if he didn't fit the system. So if you go back and look at Kalen DeBoer's track record, the quarterback is going to be productive in his offense. So you got to believe in that. So I'm not paying $4 to $6 million just because he's been to the college football playoff, he's done this and that. I don't think and again, I'm not one of these people that thinks that he's on the hot seat going into year 2. I think he went 9-4, not 4-9.
Right.
I mean, hellfire. This wasn't Mike Shula's first year. I mean,
let's get Ray in here real fast. Good morning, Ray.
Morning, gents. How we doing?
Good.
Doing well. How are you?
Doing all right. First things first, big picture in terms of just the overall, I guess, health of college football. Do we think it's better or worse that juniors who got redshirted are going to use this extra season of eligibility to go somewhere else and get a massive payout rather than go to the NFL? Because my thought is it's probably a little bit of a wash for football, but there would be a millionfold benefit if you could figure out how to make that a viable option for college basketball.
Where we get guys to stay longer than 1 year
at one university.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I think that's why a guy like
Drew, let's me and you, we're due guys. What if they could figure out how to get Cooper Flagg more money than the NBA could, and he stayed for a sophomore year? Would that be good or bad for college basketball?
It would be great, but the likelihood of that happening is about as good as me wearing Tennessee stuff. It ain't happening. The thing about it is the only way it could happen, but I think he's going to turn 18, is if he was under, like, he wasn't of age to go pro. Like, for the example, our good friend Kyra Lewis, who reclassified, and he had to play 2 years because he was 17. And then he played through his 18th birthday through his sophomore year at Alabama. He had an excellent sophomore year. He was, a first-team All-SEC guy. He ended up going to the lottery to the Pelicans. I believe he's with the Washington Wizards right now. And so there you go. You would end up getting a nice first-year contract after 2 years. That would be the only way that Cooper Flagg would still be in school, because there's just certain people. Like I had a chance to see Flagg up close at Montverde, and then you see what he continues to do at Duke. The longer he plays, the better he gets. He's just a freakazoid. He's just one of those. And Ryan Williams is the same way, but football's, it's a little bit different. You have to play 3 years. But, my opinion, Ray, I think college basketball would be a lot better off if they would pass a rule like football and baseball have, where if you make the decision to go to the college level, you have to play 3 years. I don't know why they can't do that, because it would be much better for the game. I mean, one of the reasons the NBA is unwatchable now is because so many fools are going pro way too early, and they're not good enough. Now, if you're a freakazoid and you can go out of high school, then go ahead and do it, dude. Maybe Cooper Flagg would have done that, but I think it's better off if you play 3 years of college basketball and then go once you enroll in college and then go, because I think the game would be so much fundamentally better.
All right, Ray, thanks for the phone call. We are hard up against a break here. We've got to get one in.
And I've thought that for years.
Yeah.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Fire and rescues off the westbound side of 565 around the 14th Street overpass. That's the area where we were seeing all that smoke from. Smoke seems to have gone now, but they're looking for the source of that fire. Maybe the homeless camp in that area. And we got a wreck, what appears to be westbound 565 just before Oakwood. Traffic's backed up across Chapman Mountain already from that one. Officers, construction workers, and first responders put their lives on the line every time they step on the roadway. You can make it safer for them. Slow down or move over. It's the law. Captain Nick in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
If hunting and outdoor recreation are your passions, it all starts with the right property. That's where I come in. I am Bo Butler with Southland Realty and Auction, a hunting and recreational land specialist and a Jackson County native who sees land through a hunter's eyes. Just as you trust your guide on a big game hunt, you can trust me to find the perfect property for you. Thinking of selling? Let me help you make your land attract buyers. Remember, Bo knows land. Call me at 256-609-0512.
Normally, when you call a roofing company, all you hear is, you need a new roof. Not when you call Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Since 1965, the folks at Fleming have been focused on what you need, whether it's an easy repair or a full roof replacement, commercial or residential. And when it comes to storm damage, you want Fleming on your side. They know all the ins and outs of insurance claims and will guide you through the entire process. Log on FlemingHSV.com and book your free estimate today. Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
This segment of Talkin' Ball is brought to you by University Kia, the #1 volume Kia dealer in the state of Alabama. Located online at universitykia.com.
All right, let's try to slip Don in before the hour break. Good morning, Don.
How you doing, Don?
Well, morning, guys. I will disagree with you a little bit about Milroe. I think when he gets to the combine and they see the cannon of an arm he's got, how he can run, and his size, he could easily be a first-rounder. Reminds me a lot of Anthony Richardson.
No, we've said we've kind of highlighted that if he gets to the combine, he's going to steal the show.
We expect him to do well there, but here's the only problem with that: Anthony Richardson is stunk.
Yes, and
now if Anthony Richardson had done well, then that would be another feather in his cap. But unfortunately, Anthony Richardson's gotten hurt like he did at Florida, and then he hasn't lit it up.
Well, now granted, but the thing about Milroe, he has not really gotten hurt. So There's a durability factor. Now look, he didn't have as good a year as he'd like to have, or anybody would like to have. But there's still the raw talent there, and that's what I've always thought that the NFL would look and say, hey, he's got raw talent. We can turn him into a quarterback. That seems to be the mentality there.
Yeah, and that's the problem sometimes in the NFL is that these NFL people think they're so smart that they can take these guys and turn them into something, and they flop.
And I will say something about the NIL. I would love to see a cap. I really would. I think it'd be a good thing for the sport. But I don't know if the court is ever going to let that happen. Because that's what they're fighting against, is the courts.
Yeah, and
saying
you
can't do this.
Right, and there's a couple schools now. Colorado did it yesterday.
Yeah.
Colorado separated itself. It broke ties from their collective, the collective that were starting, because the NCAA is going to allow these schools to start paying their players themselves.
Yeah.
And so they've broken away from the collective to where the school will control it going forward.
And know what a guy's making.
And that could be a first step into saying, hey, let's start regulating how much everybody is making.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it'll be just like everybody else. There'll be somebody cheats. It always happens that way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right, thanks,
guys. I appreciate your call.
Thanks for the phone call. Yeah, Colorado did that yesterday. I think there's 2 or 3 other schools in the country that have separated themselves from their collective because the school is doing it anyway. So there's no point in having the collective because the school now will take care of it. The school will, and it's all part of the course. Don is right. It's all part of the house settlement. It's all part of the court deal, and it all will blend itself in. If that happens, then like Greg Sankey can sit there and say, look, in the SEC, guys, here is the cap. Here is a salary structure on what we will pay as a conference. And then everybody else can do it.
Isaiah Bond to the NFL draft. I hope they watch his Bama film.
He didn't. He dropped one in the semifinal game.
Like I posted on my X account, a lot of different energy around Milroe and Isaiah Bond than there was a year ago, brother.
Woo, all right. Hour 2, Talking Ball. See, we did that. Hour 2 coming up next. 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
This is Brent Musburger's VSiN Action Update on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. For a limited time, G-Bank is offering a $250 bonus when you open a G-Bank Visa signature card. Apply today at vsin.com/GBank.
Busy night of Southeastern Conference basketball coming up today. The top-ranked Auburn Tigers hosting Mississippi State at Neville Arena. The Tigers are laying 7.5 as they play for their 9th consecutive win. Mississippi State ranked 15th. They are 14-2. The total today, 151.5. Number 4, Alabama laying 9.5 at home at number 21, Ole Miss, 164 at the Coleman Coliseum. The 5th-ranked Florida Gators at home laying 11 against the Missouri Tigers. Number 8, Kentucky, and number 11, Texas A&M meet at Rupp Arena. Wildcats a 6.5-point favorite, and Arkansas lays 2 at LSU. For more, go to vsin.com.
WZZN, Union Grove, Huntsville, Alabama. 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
SportsMed is the official team physicians of the Rocket City Trash Pandas. And if the pros trust SportsMed, you can too. SportsMed provides every service you might need for complete orthopedic care, specializing in orthopedic surgery, sports medicine, joint replacement, spine surgery, neurosurgery, and podiatry. And they offer their own brace shop, in-house full-body MRI, physical therapy, walk-in clinic, and so much more. 4 locations and on the web at sportsmedalabama.com.
This hour brought to you by SportsMed Orthopedic and Spine Center. Online at sportsmedalabama.com. Welcome to Talkin' Ball with Scott Theisen and Drew DeArmond. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Scott and Drew.
All right, welcome back. Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond. Welcome back into the program. It's 8 o'clock. That means SportsMed Orthopedic Surgery and Spine Center. They're helping us kick off this hour of Talking Ball. 256-881-5151. Help if you need it. You experience that SportsMed difference dedicated to providing care that improves lives. Anyway, we kicked off hour one by talking about college basketball, and we talked about the Southeastern Conference, and we talked about tonight you get not one, not two, but three ranked versus ranked opponents tonight at 6 o'clock, all three at 6 o'clock. One's on the SEC Network, one's on ESPN2, and one's right here on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. That would be fourth-ranked Alabama welcoming 21st-ranked Ole Miss and head coach Chris Beard and company. Alabama, by the way, sitting at a 10.5-point favorite in this one with your over-under set at 163.5.
Yeah, you know, that it started at 9.5. It's gone up a little bit, but certainly have nothing but mad respect for Chris Beard and what he's accomplished as a guy that got, you know, Texas Tech within an overtime of winning a national championship in basketball. I do think he was well on his way to establishing Texas as a perennial powerhouse in the Big 12. They would have, and I think they would have transitioned better to the SEC with him in the leadership of that program. But we all know what happened. Ole Miss certainly took advantage of the situation. And they hired one of the best coaches in the country. It hasn't taken him long to turn this basketball program back around again. You know, and Kermit Davis had some bright moments, and we all know our good friend Andy Kennedy had a great run there, which I still think is underrated. But they're trying to kind of take that next step, and they think they can do that with Chris Beard. And we're going to talk some Ole Miss basketball with our next guest. He's talked some Ole Miss football with us in the past. He does a great job contributing to Inside the Rebels, which is on 24/7 Sports with our good friend David Johnson. He also does a great job with WFCA FM Sports and the Believe in Ole Miss podcast. He does that on a daily basis, and we're talking about Brad Logan, and he's going to join us now on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline to talk about this matchup tonight, which might be the biggest in college basketball, considering that it's two unbeaten teams, two of the three left in the SEC. Brad, good morning. How are you?
Morning, Drew. Good morning, Scott. I appreciate you guys having me on. Yeah, it's a ranked matchup in basketball, and guys, you know, you followed Alabama and Ole Miss basketball for a long time. We haven't been able to say that Alabama and Ole Miss, a ranked basketball, two ranked basketball teams playing each other very much throughout college basketball. But this year in the SEC has just been it's been an absolute meat grinder. You look at Ole Miss, I know we'll get into it, but at number 4 Alabama, they'll go to at Mississippi State, number 15 Mississippi State on Saturday, and then next Wednesday host number 11 Texas A&M. And it's just week in and week out, the SEC is a gauntlet this year.
So you look at the start for Ole Miss, 14-2, 3-0. What's been the biggest surprise with this Rebels team so far?
I think, Scott, the number one thing right now is I understand Arkansas is 0-3, but I don't think it's the Arkansas that we expected. I think they're much better than their record indicates. They're just not shooting the basketball as well as they have. When they went on the road and just absolutely destroyed Arkansas this past Wednesday night and beat them 73-66 in Fayetteville, a place that Ole Miss just historically does not play well in Bud Walton Arena. But Scott, neither does anyone in the SEC. Ole Miss actually has won, I think, more games or maybe as many games as maybe one or two other teams in Bud Walton Arena in Fayetteville, and that's a lot. But that's a tough place to play. When they went on the road and beat Arkansas and Fayetteville, said a lot. But they've had some pretty big wins in non-conference action. I thought it was a really nice win at Louisville, won by over 20 points. So they played well there. Beat BYU and OT. I think that was the biggest non-conference game. And Scott, the biggest difference in this team and last year's team is Ole Miss did not have a very good non-conference schedule. They played pretty well, but they fell down the stretch last year. This year appears to be a little more – they're better physically, but they're a better structured team mentally. I think they're understanding Chris Beard's offense a lot better. They've got some really good production down low by Malik Deal over the last couple of games. He's played as well as any big man in the conference. Right now averaging 8.7 points per game, but he's had such big games in the last two wins. That, of course, is Arkansas and then the big win the other night. They've also beaten LSU at home. So I think the biggest thing is that they're mentally tough this year, and they're getting a lot of production off the bench. They've got players like Devon Barnes, players like Mikael Brown-Jones. We expect him to be able to play tonight. He's been out the last couple of games, had a pretty difficult fall. John Bull has had some quality minutes off the bench. Historically, we might not been able to say that Ole Miss has been deeper than 5 or 6 players. This year it gets into 7 and 9. You start getting into those games in which specific players, like, for example, if maybe a Juju Murray or Sean Padua gets in foul trouble, you've got some players that can spell them for a couple of minutes. So I think the key tonight for Ole Miss against a really good Nate Oates team in Alabama is continue to get production down low from Malik Dia. Ole Miss historically does not do well on the offense and defensive boards, specifically in Tuscaloosa and Coleman Coliseum. If they can somehow limit the crowd, that's going to be absolutely bonkers tonight. I think they kind of dealt with a pretty difficult crowd at Arkansas, but I don't think they've faced anything like they'll face tonight in Coleman Coliseum. So if Malik Dia can continue to play well, Ole Miss needs production from Matthew Morrell. He's just not been the player that Ole Miss expected him to be. He's been injured. And then Jamin Brakefield, who people have been yelling for Brakefield to kind of get back to his old self, and he kind of did that in the win over LSU. He had a pretty good game. But, yeah, a couple things going to have to happen. Ole Miss is going to have to play well defensively, limit Alabama as best they can, but they need big games from Sean Padula and big games from Malik Dia as well.
Yeah, and Padua has been for what they thought, getting him from Virginia Tech. He's averaging, and I talked about it before, in hour one, almost 2.5 steals per game. And this, as a team, they average 10. So they're very, very good in the passing lanes. They pressure the basketball, and at times Alabama has had too many live ball turnovers. So Alabama's going to have to protect the basketball against this Ole Miss team. No question about it. They're going to have to continue to dominate on the glass as they have because they're bigger than Ole Miss. They need to get Dia in foul trouble. Certainly, he definitely has been starting to produce. That has been even though they've started 14-2, that has been a little bit of my surprise because Morrell has been a lifelong Rebel. He just has not. I guess I was expecting him to be a 17, 18 points per game guy and be maybe a first-team All-SEC caliber guy, and that just hasn't happened. That doesn't mean he won't round into that form. Mark Sears has started to do that after a slow start. But I guess that's the one thing that surprised me for the Rebels is that Morrell is only averaging a little over 11 points per game.
Yeah, and one thing, Drew, that really jumps out to me is Ole Miss this year, historically, not a program that shoots the three.
Right.
At a really good clip. This year they've got 3 players in 4, if you count 34%, shooting over 35% from 3. That's Sean Padula, Juju Murray, Dre Davis at 34, just under 35%, and then Jamin Brakefield at 35%. So those are all positive things that have happened within the program. I think steals is a huge deal. I'm glad you brought that up. Averaging over 10 a game. And Padula has just been really good with the basketball, and he's been playing really good defensively. But shooting from the field and then the free throw line too. Ole Miss has historically not shot particularly well at the line. They've done really well, and not necessarily only shooting 73% of the team, but down the stretch, Ole Miss has made the free throws to extend leads. And there've been a couple of games this year where Ole Miss has been in 2- and 3-point games less than a minute. They've been able to extend those games by making those free throws. And one more game, gentlemen, I think it's really important to point out is Ole Miss lost a close one to Purdue.
Yes.
At that point, ranked number 13, 80-78. Ole Miss played really well that day, and I think they learned a lot from that. Probably learned more than anything from the loss to Memphis. Mm-hmm. On the road, Memphis and Penny Hardaway. If you remember, Mousse Cisse.
That's right. He did.
Year, and he went off against Ole Miss and just had the game of his career. Ole Miss just didn't play well, and Chris Beard told us at the end of the game that basically, in so many words, in Chris Beard speak, they just wanted it more, and they just outplayed us. And so that was a situation where they had a little bit of a come-to-Jesus meeting. And then, of course, the following game against Georgia, Ole Miss played really well against a really good, we've learned, a pretty good Mike White team that would beat Georgia, that would beat Kentucky at home. They beat Georgia 63-51, and then, of course, begins that conference slate. And, Ole Miss at 3-0 in the conference, the first place they've been, I think it's like 2015, 2016 or so. And you made mention of Andy Kennedy. I agree, Drew. I think Andy does not get the flowers that he deserves. Playing in many instances, playing in the Old Testament Coliseum, a place to where the only place that's ever had a rain out in SEC college basketball. And so he did a lot with a little. And now you've got Keith Carter and the Ole Miss administration, the athletic director, is really pouring into the Ole Miss basketball program. And you also made mention of Coach Kermit Davis, who did a lot of good things at Ole Miss, just kind of fell apart there at the end. And I'm really impressed with what I've seen by Chris Beard. He's a guy that can get teams to the Final Four. You made mention also earlier, Texas Tech, a guy that he knows how to win. And so far we're seeing that at Ole Miss. He's doing things that historically are not done in Oxford in men's college basketball.
Do you think Mikal Brown-Jones will be cleared to play today?
I think so. I mean, we saw the availability report, and it said, a possibility that he will play. Ole Miss did a nice job against LSU the other night. He did not play, and then I think he was injured against Georgia, kind of went up for a rebound, came down, hit his head, was in they haven't said, but I would guess concussion protocol. It's kind of up in the air, but they've done a good job with a couple players coming off the bench and kind of spelling the minutes that he got. He's averaging, I think, right around 12 minutes a game. So definitely has to have some minute eaters come off the bench, and that's been Dre Davis has been really good. Malik Dia, Brakefield, and then Devon Barnes has played a lot. I think he's kind of spelling a lot of the Mikal Brown-Jones, and they would love to see Eduardo Klafke. He's a guy that can shoot the three really well, but boy, just does not play any defense at all. Get this, shooting 61% from the three-point line, 63% from the floor. It's just an offensive machine. But he's got to be able to play just a little bit of defense. So and I used the term, I was on with Arkansas media prior to that game, and I said, if you guys remember Alex Dillard, I don't know if you guys remember
Al Dillard, Southern Union Junior College here in our state, yep.
Okay, never met a shot that he didn't like, would pull up from the hog inside Bud Walton, or at that time I guess it was Barnhill Arena.
Right.
Eduardo Clancy is a lot like that. So if you see him come into the game and start pulling from the timeline, don't be surprised by that. He's got a great eye for the hoop. He just plays no defense whatsoever. So that's kind of Ole Miss basketball in a nutshell. They're playing really well. I think the main thing, they're playing well as a team. And if they can withstand a couple of the big punches that Alabama's going to throw at them, my thing is get into a rock fight with Alabama, play good defense, and have a chance in the second half, and don't let the game get away from you.
And then that's a great point, Brad. We're talking to Brad Logan, Believe in Ole Miss podcast. Also, as we said, contributor to Inside the Rebels 24/7 Sports. Does an outstanding job covering Ole Miss. And I'll make this statement in Andy Kennedy's behalf. He's doing a great job at UAB, but the Pavilion is one of the best facilities basketball-wise in the SEC, and that doesn't get built if Andy Kennedy doesn't win, if the clip he did at Ole Miss, win an SEC tournament. And get them to the NCAAs on a consistent basis. He got that facility, but I remember Coach John Calipari talking about the Tad Pad, kind of taking shots at it, but then talking about how beautiful the Pavilion was and the progress Ole Miss was making in basketball. And you're right. You don't get a coach like Chris Beard if you don't do that, and certainly Keith Carter has done it. But I know you gave a couple of the keys right there, Brad, but as we're kind of closing out our segment, our conversation, what are, if Ole Miss wins the game, what must happen for the Rebels to pull off what would be their biggest win in the Chris Beard era? And I know they're in the top 20 right now, but they would make a huge jump to being in the top 15 and start knocking on the door of the top 10 if they could win this tonight.
Right. And before, Drew, I give any particular keys to the game, I want to say this. You hear the words free shot a lot. I know you and Scott probably use that word a lot when you talk about underrated teams going on the road and trying to get big wins. I think Ole Miss gets a free shot tonight. I think they have a much better chance of beating Mississippi State on Saturday at Starkville than they do winning tonight in Tuscaloosa. So it's a quad one game for Ole Miss. It's a great opportunity to go on the road. I think if you win, John Calipari, you made mention of him a moment ago, the Arkansas head coach. He said if you go 7-11 or 7-12 in the SEC, you're making the tournament. So if Ole Miss can win their home games, they almost have what I would say is they've got 1.5 game buffer by winning on the road at Arkansas. So if you can somehow go on the road and win one out of the next two, you're in wonderful shape going down the stretch with as manageable as the SEC can be down the stretch with home games. So it's a good opportunity for Ole Miss. It's a free shot. But if you tell me tomorrow that Ole Miss wins the game, that means Sean Patua's got 20-plus points. That means Malik Diaz probably got 10 offensive rebounds. And I think Matthew Morrell becomes the old-school Matthew Morrell. You probably get some threes from Jamin Brakefield that you don't normally get. And then I think if Ole Miss can somehow, once again, get into a rock fight with Alabama, really make Nate Oates' team very frustrated offensively. And once again, they've got to rebound the basketball on the defensive and offensive end. If they do not get the defensive rebounds, and Alabama is so good about going to the offensive board and getting the putbacks, if that happens, it could be a long night for Ole Miss. But I think rebounding and then under the basket is going to be the key for Ole Miss one way or the other.
Well, Brad, great stuff. We really appreciate you coming on and educating us on the Ole Miss Rebels. Looking forward to the game tonight. Looking forward to being in Tuscaloosa and seeing it from press row and seeing this Rebel program and what Chris Beard has already done in just his second year in Oxford. But let everybody know how to follow you.
Absolutely. Of course, we're on Twitter/X at Brad Logan COTE, and then at Rebs247.com. That's Inside the Rebels, an affiliate of 24/7 Sports. And guys, let me say, I listen to the show a lot. Of course, Drew, you know that. And I always enjoy getting to catch up with you at SEC Media Days. And Scott and Drew, it's a great show. And anytime you guys need anything here in Mississippi, I'm always grateful to help. Great show, and appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, because we got football season coming up, and I'm sure Lane Kiffin will have nothing to say about a new year.
Well, right now we're dealing with direct messages and Instagram and basically Entertainment Tonight. So it's always fun covering Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss football. But as you guys know, they're in the great state of Alabama with Auburn and Alabama.
Yep.
It's 24/7, man. It's absolutely, every day is all day. It's college football, but we love it because it's content, but it just never stops. And never know what's going to happen each day on the beat with Lane Kiffin.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brad.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
All right, we got to get a break in. When we come back, Talking Ball continues. 256-576-4977.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Sounds like HPD just rolled up on a wreck on Hall. I don't have a cross street yet. Got Adventist and Millennium with an injury. 431 and Asbury came in as a no injury. And they were working Railroad and Hickory in Decatur, also reporting as a no injury. Still got the left lane blocked up if you're coming down from Chapman approaching Oakwood. You need to be in the right lane there. Shoals Scholar Dollars Legends in Concert Series is bringing Grammy Award winner Pam Tillis to UNA on January 26th. Tickets at shoalsscholardollars.com. Captain Eck in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
Specializing in simple and affordable rentals, McCurry Van and Car Rental can make sure you have just the right vehicle for your next family vacation, weekend getaway, or if you just need transportation while your vehicle is being repaired. McCurry carries Ford Transit vans and Mercedes Sprinter vans, trucks and work vans, and more. And they offer discounted rental rates for long-term rentals. Now with 4 locations: Athens, Muscle Shoals, Coleman, and Huntsville. Log on McCurryRentals.com to make your reservation now. That's McCurryRentals.com. No representation is made that the quality of the legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
This is Wes Neighbors sitting here with Stan McDonald. Stan, tell everybody why you're the best damn dirt lawyer in North Alabama.
Yes, Wes, at Jacob Title and the Stanton Law Firm. You know I'm a dirt lawyer, and a lot of our friends know that, which means we specialize in real estate. Now, if you own real estate or you're buying it or you're selling it, you need to do a closing, but a lot of times there's legal issues associated with that. We're a great group to talk to. My son, Lewis McDonald, heads our commercial closing division, and we approach your real estate needs very seriously. We seek to be the premier real estate closing company in North Alabama, and we do it in such a way it shows that we're experienced, we're for your success. We like to handle your real estate needs the same way Coach Dan Reeves used to say, never let them see you sweat. And that's going to be to your benefit, too, when you visit us at Jacob Title and the Stanton Law Firm. Our website online is jacobtitle.com.
We cover all the SEC schools, including Western Union and Venmo.
I want that money!
You know, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Yo, Trey, drop the verse.
All right, welcome back. Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. 8:20 on a Tuesday morning, 256-576-4977, to fill you in on everything that we have talked about this morning. We've thrown in a lot of college football conversation. What would you do if you're Quinn Ewers? What decision would you make if, indeed, he has a decision to make? We talked some college basketball, getting you ready for tonight on both Alabama and Auburn's big-time games. Plus, we've gotten in your phone calls. Let's go back out there, shall we? Mark from Spring Hill with us. Good morning, Mark.
Morning, Mark.
Hey, morning, guys. Hey, you remember the Robert Ory and you had, let's see, I'm trying to think, Hollywood Robinson was on the team. The transfer, Latrell Sprewell.
No, Latrell Sprewell, yeah.
Would that team beat this team?
I don't think so. This team has a more depth. This team has 10 guys that can score and that can play. As Buzz Williams said after the game for Texas A&M, he said they have future NBA players that don't start. And so he even said, and certainly I hope that's not the case, at least for a long time. He said they have a future NBA head coach and they have NBA players on their bench. So now that team was very, very good that you're mentioning, and that lethal weapon 3 there a little bit with Sprewell, Ory, certainly Hollywood Robinson. It was an outstanding team. Elliott Washington, point guard who played on that squad, who made a big shot against Arkansas. They were very, very good, but I don't think they were as deep as this Alabama team can potentially be. And that's why guys like Latrell Wrightsell, of course, is injured, but he's going to be, red-shirted due to the Achilles injury. And even his replacement looks like he will be medically red-shirted, Houston Millette, because of how deep this team is. So it's by far the deepest Nate's ever had, because usually his Alabama teams have been 7, maybe 8 guys. This squad legitimately has 10. He can play. That's why when he got angry the other day and he got all over Darion Reed for not getting back on defense, and that's why when they got off to a slow start in the second half when they weren't getting stops, he subbed 5 people.
Right.
Because he wasn't satisfied with how they were playing defensively and locking down. And so he has, iron sharpens iron. There's a lot of competition on the team. Does seem like they have good chemistry. A guy like, Jaron Stevenson, he hasn't scored the ball like people were hoping, but he's become a really good defender, and he's really bought into that. Brian Adams coming over from the NBA. And then I know some are concerned because Alabama's given up 70-something points per game, but you got to understand they're scoring almost 90 to 100. So their pace sometimes gives up buckets. And I'll just say this: if they get their average tonight against Ole Miss ain't got a chance. Ole Miss has got to keep this game in the 70s. If it starts getting to the high 80s or more, then the Rebels are not going to win the game.
Yeah, that's the reason I brought that up. I agree with you. I think this is the best Alabama basketball team that's it's the best athletes, best team that's ever played, at Alabama. And I guess my last comment is this. Nate Oates, I tell you, when he got mad the other night and I saw fire in his belly, he went to half court, getting after a player. That's the kind of coach you want. Wow, that's all I can say is, this is no knock on DeBoer. It's going to sound like it, but Coach Saban, he had that in his belly, and please don't take this the wrong way, but do you think DeBoer has that kind of fire in his belly? And I really want your opinion on that. I'll hang up and listen.
Everybody coaches in a different way. I mean, there's a different ways to skin a cat. Everybody.
I don't think Coach DeBoer wants to lose.
No. I mean, look at his record. I mean, and if you've watched him on the sidelines, he can get pretty fiery. He can get after a player. He can get after an official. But for the most part, he is a stoic kind of guy. And, and to be honest with you, Coach Bryant was. He wasn't the most demonstrative on the sidelines.
Was he
stoic? He was stoic.
Was he?
Now, he could get after some people, especially in the locker room at halftime, but he wasn't a guy that showed a lot of emotion. And at times, neither did Gene Stallings, even though he could get irate and get after an official. But he didn't wear a headset, and at times he wasn't the most emotional guy. He would have his arms folded. He would clap, things of that nature. But Nate Oates has always been an emotional guy. If you watch him on the sidelines, he's very rarely a still guy. He's always communicating with his players. I think that's his biggest strength as a coach.
Well, there were times this year you saw him get emotional. I mean, there were times when you saw it.
Yeah, there was. There's no doubt about that.
But like you're right, though. Every coach does it differently.
They all do it differently, without question.
Yeah.
They all, they handle things in a different way. And I just think Nate's biggest strength is he communicates well with his players, and he instills confidence in them. In other words, he says, look, if you don't shoot, I'm going to take you out. And he's like, if you're open, you shoot, you handle yourself a certain way. I mean, and coaches love playing in his system.
That just blows my mind, though, when you say, I'm going to take you out if you don't shoot.
Right.
Back in the day when you ran the old offenses back in the day when I was in school, it's like, okay, we are not, remember the Hoosiers? We are not shooting unless you pass the ball at least
five times. 5 passes.
Before we shoot the ball.
Yeah.
Much has changed in the game.
Yeah.
Now, hey, this is our good friend Ross Dellinger. But thanks for the phone call, Mark, by the way, as well.
Thank you, Mark.
Our good friend Ross Dellinger put
Yeah.
this out there a minute ago, and I want to make sure I get this out there. The AFCA convention is going on, which is the American Football Coaches Association convention. And he says a discussion that is ongoing right now, and this will make a lot of people happy that are listening to the show, that they are discussing faking injuries on how to slow it down.
Yeah.
And what is being discussed at the convention, because whatever gets discussed at this convention usually gets put in front of
the
rules committee.
Yeah.
An injured player would be sidelined the rest of a drive.
Yeah.
And then coaches could use a timeout to reinstate the player if they wanted to. It's expected to be on the agenda at the head coaches meeting today at the AFCA convention.
Interesting.
To slow the faking of injuries down in college football.
What will Lane Kiffin's thoughts be?
Can you give me more timeouts? Can you give me about 10? Because I'm going to need them. Bama Bino is with us this morning. Good morning, Bama Bino.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, guys. Great show as usual.
Thank you.
There is a difference in styles of coaching. But I'll tell you one reason why Stallings and Bryant, they would get after, just to where they would cheat the players. He'd stick up for his team and kind of embarrass the player on the sideline to where he'd pay attention. But I'll tell you one reason why they weren't as animated on the sideline as some coaches that are probably less successful is because they had their players ready to play during the summer. The work's done in the summer and spring with fundamentals. You didn't ever have to tell a player, hardly ever. I mean, I'm sure they did, but it just was understood. You form tackle, you don't arm tackle. Just certain things. Watch the ball. If you can't hear the snap count, watch the darn football. Little things that are so simple. The basics they had covered. And the fundamentals, the work's done before the game started. As far as fundamentals, shouldn't have to tell players that. And a lot of that was covered, And, I'm sure it's not that simple on everything, but he had there's no sense in getting all excited in 60 minutes of football when, you've had 364 days to prepare for that game, basically. It was some of the players out there, and on average, most of the coaches had been there the year before. They had better fundamentals. The players were developed. They taught it better in high school. It's just fundamentals and focus. Fundamentals and focus. You didn't have to worry about a guy wanting to play a team player and doing the things he was supposed to do on his end. You could tell the guys were enthused more and had a more give a darn attitude than what you see now because they were hungrier. And for what that's worth, that's just all I had to say about that.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I mean,
everybody didn't get a trophy.
Yeah.
You got a trophy when you participated and stood out and done what you're supposed to do. that team trophy is worth more than an individual trophy.
Bambino, thanks for the phone call. I mean, we are hard up against a break here.
Thank you, sir.
But he's right, though. He's right in some aspects. In some aspects, because of the kids that are on the field, not all of them, but some of them believe that they're there and they should be there. They're going to be there, and they don't have to earn anything because, such school went out and recruited me, so therefore I'm going to be there, and I deserve to play because I am a 5-star. I don't have to prove it. I just should be playing anyway. Let's get a break in. Robbie Falk going to join us on the other side. Let's preview a little Mississippi State basketball.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. Plenty of sunshine this afternoon. Actually going to be a pretty nice Tuesday across North Alabama, southern Middle Tennessee. Temperatures climbing into the low and mid 40s. Now that is still below where we should be this time of year. The average high temperature is somewhere in the low 50s, right around 51 or 52. We drop into the mid upper 20s as we head into the overnight early Wednesday morning. A mostly to partly sunny sky Wednesday afternoon. Once again, temperatures climbing into the low and mid 40s, dropping into the mid upper 20s as we head into the overnight. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Got a new wreck on University. This one is going to be east of Sparkman. I don't know about injury yet. Adventist and Millennium reported with injury. 431 and Asbury reported as in no injury. And they're still pushing the traffic westbound coming down off Chapman Mountain over into the right lane. You get a 3-car accident just before Oakwood that's still blocking up that lane. Had a report of a structure fire, 100 block of Bucks Pocket. Last report, they had several county fire divisions on that one. New year, new projects, and the old ones still need to be finished. Snelling can help with admin, business support, and accounting needs. Snelling, how the area's best companies hire talent. Huntsville.snelling.com. Captain Eck in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
It's bowl season on ESPN Radio, including the college football playoff and national championship game. The electricity, the atmosphere. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish, the Ohio State Buckeyes, the College Football Playoff National Championship, presented by AT&T. Coverage begins Monday, January 20th at 6:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN.
It's the beauty of college football.
97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Eagle Masonry and Installation. It's right there in the name. Eagle is your one-stop shop for block, stone, or brickwork, monument signs, and outdoor kitchens and fireplaces. Eagle also offers the finest craftsmanship and insulation, including fiberglass or spray foam insulation, and of course, insulation removal. Philip Love and his team have years of experience, bringing the region the best in masonry and insulation services. For more information and a quote, visit insulatewitheagle.com or call 256-755-1556. Eagle saves you time. Eagle saves you money.
All right, welcome back. Talking Ball 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond, 8:34-ish on a Tuesday morning. We mentioned coming up tonight at 6 o'clock, and we have already heard from Bruce Pearl earlier in the show. Top-ranked Auburn will welcome 15th-ranked Mississippi State to Neville Arena tonight. Auburn, by the way, comes into this one a 7.5-point favorite. You're over-under inside Neville Arena, 151.5 points. Your total there. Now, the biggest story surrounding this one is, yes, for the second time in program history, Auburn is off to they have ascended to that number one ranking, off to a 3-0 start. But the other biggest story is that Auburn will be without Johni Broome in this one. Suffered the ankle injury against South Carolina. Remember, yesterday we told you the MRI revealed no no outside damage other than the sprained ankle, heavily sprained. So they will be without him. That's the big story for the Auburn Tigers. The other side of the bench is that 15th ranked Mississippi State comes to town, 14-2, 2-1 in SEC play off to a very good start are the Bulldogs. But what do we know about Mississippi State?
Well, Chris Jans is one of the most underrated coaches in the country. Did a great job at New Mexico State. Has come to Starkville and made them a perennial NCAA tournament contender. I think it could be his best team. It's a little bit different team, because they're more high-powered offensively than I think they have been in the past under him, and they're a little bit of a different style because I'm still getting used to Tulu Smith not being there. I mean, he was there, it seemed like 15 years. As one of the best low post players in the SEC, but they're a little bit different squad. They had a lot of veterans on the team last year. They did a really interesting job of kind of attacking things through the transfer portal and yet keeping guys like Keyshawn Murphy, Cameron Matthews, who have been Bulldogs their entire careers, who have continued to develop under Chris Jans. But this is a team, Josh Hubbard, he hasn't maybe quite been as efficient offensively as they want him to be, but he's still capable of going off for 30 against anyone. He's still averaging 17 points per game. And I think they have one of the more under-the-radar teams in the SEC, and this is going to be a really interesting road trip without Jonai Broom available for Auburn, and it's to see if Mississippi State could potentially steal this game. It's very difficult to win in Auburn Arena, and they're coming off a very tough loss where they played I didn't think they played poorly at all. They just ran into a really good Kentucky team and lost a 95-90 high-level game in the hump, and then they'll have a chance to battle Ole Miss back home this weekend on Saturday. So it's a big week for the Rebels, and we're going to catch up with one of my favorite guys. Certainly I've touched base with him at SEC Media Days in the past. We featured him, and I enjoy watching his daily podcast, Thunder and Lightning, with Brian Haydad. And you remember we had Brian Haydad on our airwaves in Dallas. Great guy, but it's great to catch up with Robbie Falk. He's part of On3 Sports with our good friend Paul Jones, and we're going to talk some Mississippi State hoops right now. Robbie, how you doing, sir?
Doing good, fellas. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming on with us. I know it was a really tough year on the gridiron for Mississippi State in the first year under Jeff Lebby, but this has been a really nice start to the basketball season for Mississippi State. We just were talking to Brad Logan about them losing to Memphis. That was kind of where we saw Mississippi State that when they handled the Memphis Tigers earlier this year the way they did. That kind of, to me, signaled that this Mississippi State team, which maybe a lot of people didn't have the expectations for with the losses they had on their squad, this team might be a lot better than people thought.
Yeah, for those of us that have been watching this team kind of come together, we knew that there was something special about them, and I think that was the first time that everybody got a chance to see it.
Yeah.
You go on the road to Memphis, who, they kind of struggled through the first part of their non-conference schedule, but still a very talented team. And State just absolutely handled them at the FedEx Forum. You kind of saw, like, oh, this team's legit. And, the first couple of games of conference play, they showed it too. The other night played out just like it has for the last 16 years of Mississippi State and Kentucky. 13 of their 20 losses during this 1-20 run that they've had against Kentucky, 13 of them by single digits. And it played out almost the exact same way. Kentucky built a lead in the second half. State stormed back, and they just couldn't finish it. But this is still a team that I think is going to contend in this league.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about tonight. I mean, they travel to Auburn. Auburn will be without Jonai Broom, the big man. So, I mean, you would assume, and Auburn played okay after he went out, found enough ways to win at South Carolina, but you would have to think Mississippi State would have to be able to find a way to take advantage somehow of Broom not being in there.
Yeah, I think certainly it helps their chances. I would have given them a very small chance of winning this game on the road in that environment with Jonai Broom. But with him out, it doesn't make Auburn a better team. That's 17 points and 10 rebounds a game. They certainly are going to be missing that piece. Having said that, this is the number one team for a reason. Jonai Broom wasn't carrying that team. This is a team that still has, I think, 5 other players averaging double figures. They have pieces there. And one of the guys not averaging double figures is Dylan Cardwell, who I think is a very big piece of what they do because of the toughness that he brings, what he does on the defensive end. So, you're talking about a team that is extremely deep. They can go almost, 5 deep off the bench. And that's going to be very difficult for Mississippi State. They're going to have to play a really good ball game. They're going to have success early in this game, try to take the crowd out of it, and they're going to have to play well at all 5 positions. And they really need Riley Kugel to be in this ball game. He was hurt last game,
right?
Had 2 separate injuries, and he's probable for this game. I don't know if he's going to play or not yet, but they need him to play, and they need him to be at his best, and they need Josh Hubbard to play really well also.
Yeah, we're talking to Robbie Falk on 3 Sports, Thunder and Lightning podcast with Brian Haydad. And you're right, because we saw Riley Kugel, at least for me, was on that Florida team last year. He went into the transfer portal. He's averaging nearly 10 points per game, but he can be very, very productive when he's right. They've got R.J. Melendez, who at one time was Illinois and Georgia. He is now at Mississippi State. I thought the portal class, it's been a good one for Chris Jans. He did a nice job of kind of retooling this roster. It's in a little bit different type of team because Mississippi State was almost like a Twin Towers type team last year. They wanted to slow the pace. They wanted to they wanted to almost play half-court basketball, very defensive-oriented. This is a much better offensive team than Jans has had at Mississippi State thus far.
Very, very much so. I think he's hit on his transfer guys. Jeremy Femina is really the only guy that out of the portal that isn't like truly contributing, and he was kind of brought in as a project for them in the post. Michael Nwoku is starting to blossom in the post. They missed on Amari Williams. They really thought they had him.
Right,
He ended up
going
going
to Kentucky, right, yeah.
Yeah, and that was a big miss, but Michael Nwoku has really helped, make up for that. And then, like you mentioned, Kugel has been pretty good. He's shown some excellent flashes. He's had some tough games. But R.J. Melendez has really been the steal of the class. He's been a prototypical Chris Jans guy. He's going to defend. He's going to get in your face. Does all the little things. And Claudio Harris is kind of the same way. He can hit a big shot. He's been a guy that a lot of people weren't talking about as a rebounder. He's been a big rebounder for Mississippi State. Adding those pieces has really made this team a lot different than they have been. And then Cam Matthews has just been out of this world. The impact he's made. I thought the Kentucky game was the best game he's ever played. He had 19 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists.
Like Scottie Pippen, man.
He was unbelievable, and he single-handedly kept State in that ball game.
And I wanted to ask about his development. He's, of course, stayed the course at Mississippi State. And Scott and I already talked about him in hour 1 because I know his high school coach very well. They came back to the Huntsville City Classic this year. We had him on our airwaves, and he's been keeping everybody on his Facebook page. He's been, trumpeting you guys, how well you're playing. But Keyshawn Murphy's kind of blossoming this year in his development for Mississippi State as kind of a stretch four and a guy that can play inside and out. He's a very talented young man, and I admire him for staying the course. So many kids get in the portal, but he stayed the course and become a really valuable member of the state squad.
Yeah, Keyshawn's a great story. He actually was involved in, I think he got shot his freshman year and was out for most of his freshman year. Comes back. He's been dealing with some injuries that have set him back. He had an injury last year. They were really excited about him early on in the season. Went down with an injury. When he came back, he wasn't really excited about his role. And he actually left the team for about a month and was not with the team for team activities, wasn't on the bench, anything. We didn't really know what was going to happen with him. He comes back, kind of guts it out the rest of the year, and then he enters the transfer portal. And Chris Jans, he wanted him to stay. He was not ready to get rid of him. He was really working on him. He decides to come back, and since he decided to come back, talk about a guy that has embraced his role and bought in. Keyshawn has become the ultimate team player. He looks like a totally different player because he's doing all the little things. He's not just trying to score the basketball. And he's become a difference maker. He's long. He's 6'9". He can shoot it from mid-range. He can rebound. He can defend. He's a guy that's really helped Mississippi State this year. And when he comes in off the bench, he gives you a different dynamic. So he's been huge for Mississippi State this year. And this is a game, too, that I think he's going to factor into and need to play really well to win.
This game here tonight is one. If you look at Mississippi State's schedule, there's like kind of like stretches where they're really important ones. This is the midst of one. I think the first of two. This is first of four. This is the second of four ranked opponents for Mississippi State. They had Kentucky on Saturday, Auburn tonight, then Ole Miss. Then they go to Tennessee, and then it's a trip to South Carolina, and then another tough stretch comes up. But this is one of those big stretches where if we don't know a lot about Mississippi State now, we will after these next four games.
Yeah, they really need to come out of this with a win or two just to kind of hold steady.
Yeah.
Because losses are going to be there. You're going on
Yes.
the road to Knoxville. That's going to be very difficult. Ole Miss is going to be tough. Playing that at home helps. The home team has been the team that's kind of dominated this over the last few years. State did go down there and get a win a couple years ago, but the home team has pretty much controlled that. And then Auburn tonight. You got Alabama at home. You really need to take the home games when you can get them. And if you can steal a road game here and there, that's great too. State's already got a road game that they got at Vandy, so that was big. Any road game you can get in the SEC is huge, but you're kind of counting down wins now. If State can get to 8 wins in the SEC, this is a team that's going to be a top 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. And then from there, you're just building your resume with each win. I think 8 wins is the magic number in the SEC, and then building and building with every win that follows.
And we're talking to Robbie Falk. And then, Robbie, the last couple of minutes, and we appreciate your time. We know you're a very busy guy with Paul Jones on 3 Sports. And then, of course, you and Brian Haydad do great work with the Thunder and Lightning podcast. If Mississippi State is to pull off this upset tonight, and it would still be an upset even without Jonai Broome, what do they need to do to win in a very tough place to play in Auburn Arena?
It's going to be on the defensive end. They're going to need to hold Auburn somewhere from 70 below, I think, to really feel good. And that's asking a lot. South Carolina was able to do it.
Yeah.
They just didn't have the offense. 75 below, I think they're in the ball game. If it gets to be where it's a shootout, I don't know if State can – I think State has the offense capable of doing that, but I'm siding with the home team. If that's the case, they're playing – they're not able to play their game, if that's the case. So defending the perimeter is big. This team, Chris Shans talked about the other day, they're just not defending the perimeter as well. They're going to have to slow them down from 3. And, I think Auburn has players that are capable of lighting it up. I don't know if it's a team that's going to shoot how Kentucky did the other night with hit 50% of their three-pointers and make 16. So you definitely don't need to get in that ball game. If you can hold them in the 30s from three-point range, you win the rebounding battle, and you're having a good game from Josh Hubbard, maybe Riley Kugel, I think State has an excellent chance of winning this game, but a lot has to go right for them to win it.
Well, they're 2-1 right now in the SEC. They've already had one road win, got a good road win in Nashville, throttled Ole Miss South Carolina at home.
Yeah.
They will have Ole Miss at home on Saturday, and they played a very high-level game against Kentucky. So a strong start to conference play. Had a very good out-of-conference run under Chris Jans thus far. Looking like, as you heard Robbie Falk say, potentially maybe a top 5 seed in the NCAA tournament, which would be a really, really good run for this Bulldog program. Well, Robbie, we appreciate it. Let everybody know how to connect with what you guys are doing on 3. I know that's really just in the last year gotten up and running when you made the move to cover Mississippi State for On 3 Sports.
Yeah, just over a year since I joined over there with Paul, and we're killing it over there. We have a great group of posters, so you can check us out there. And that's Maroon and White Daily. You can follow me on Twitter, Robbie Falk on 3. And then we have 5 days a week, the Thunder and Lightning podcast, which has been, it's blown up in the last few years. Really grateful for Brian bringing me on there. We have a great time, so you can check us out there.
Well, I can tell you this, Robbie, you guys make me hungry every time. Now I know what restaurants to go to when we come back to Starkville.
Really? You know where to go?
Oh, no question.
We have a list for you.
Okay.
If you need any recommendations, Brian and I can.
Restaurant Tyler, man.
Okay. All right, we'll have to make the trip.
Yeah, no doubt. See, Scott's a foodie.
So now
Robbie,
we're ready to go.
Yeah, he loves
We're
the
ready.
food part.
Well, who doesn't?
Churn and spoon ice cream, all of it. You can tell I listen a lot. But I appreciate it, Robbie. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Robbie. All right. You mentioned ice cream.
Yeah.
All the things.
Beef, it's what's for dinner. Mississippi Beef Council.
Got to get that beef.
Yeah.
Let's get a break in. We'll wrap it all up next.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Picked up a new wreck, county line in Madison Boulevard. Sounds like it's in the middle of the intersection. No injury reported. Had one on University east of Sparkman that may still be trying to clear. And we had Adventist and Millennium that turned out to be an injury type. They just cleared that wreck coming down 565 from Chapman Mountain almost down to Oakwood. Left lane's been blocked up there for quite a while. They finally reopened it. Expert heart care backed by advanced technology. When you need cardiac care, you need the heart doctor. Dr. Randall Burns and the team at Huntsville Heart Specialists on Bob Wallace Avenue. Captain Nick in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
You've got to experience Toyotathon at Bill Penny Toyota. They've got the selection with over 700 new Toyotas to choose from. And they've got the extras with Bill Penny perks and a 10-year unlimited warranty. So get on over to Bill Penny Toyota today and experience Toyotathon. Bill Penny Toyota in Huntsville and online at BillPennyToyota.com. Bill Penny's Toyota 10-year unlimited warranty is valid through the 10th year of ownership. Valid on new vehicles only. See dealer for details.
Hi, my name is Dan Aldridge. I'm here to let you know about the Aldridge Law Firm and the soon-to-be-announced Legal Town Center. I've been practicing law in Alabama since 1984, and I also practice in Tennessee. And I'm from North Alabama, and I'm here to represent you and take care of your legal needs. For many of us, hiring an attorney is not high on the priority list, and maybe a little scary. But it's something that we all need at some point. So by all means, do your homework. And if you need representation for car accident, wrongful death, medical malpractice, nursing home abuse, or estate planning, or any other matter, just give us a call at 256-534-3188. And you can email me at Dan, that is Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. God bless America.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
Tom Abraham here for my friend Mike Owen at Owen Home Appliance Center. Are those new school clothes wearing out that old washer and dryer? Well, it's time to get off the bus at Owen Home Appliance Center and learn what a new Speed Queen washer can do for you. They're in stock and are ready for delivery now. At Owen Home Appliance Center, quality products, quality pricing, quality service. It's right there in the name, Owen Home Appliance Center. 2 locations to serve you, Highway 36 in Somerville and the interactive location at Highway 231 in Lacey Springs, just 8 miles south of the river.
This segment of Talkin' Ball is brought to you by University Kia, the #1 volume Kia dealer in the state of Alabama. Located online at universitykia.com. It's time for tomorrow's headlines today with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Time keeps on slipping into the future.
All right, welcome back. Talking Ball 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Story that kind of is bouncing around last night. Did you see this one? Deion Sanders, Dallas.
Yeah, shocker, yada, yada,
They've
yada.
had conversations, but Deion said he's happy in Boulder, so we'll see where it goes. If it matriculates into anything, don't know, but we'll see.
Yeah, it looks like Bill Belichick's continuing to build his staff, though his name came up with Dallas too.
Yeah,
yesterday.
because he said that was one that he would have taken if available. And everyone's like, oh, you know what? He only has a $10 million buyout. Let's keep it in thought, keep it in there. But he's not leaving North Carolina without ever having coached a game. That would do his. You can't do that.
Yeah, because Steve Belichick is the DC at North Carolina, as everybody expected. He worked with Armand Hawkins at Washington last year, and Armand's now coming with him from Washington, North Carolina, to be a defensive backs coach. I fully expect Belichick to at least spend a dang year at North Carolina. We'll see, but I mean, I don't see Bill Belichick at Dallas. And I'll be honest with you, I think, you know, and Mike McCarthy's a vet. He may end up in Chicago, poor dude, but you know he's going to interview there in the near future. But if I'm Jerry Jones, I might just end up. You probably need to go the coordinator route and go young. I mean, I don't know that there's an established coach out there that just sticks out like a sore thumb that would be a good fit in Dallas.
You mentioned top of the show, Alabama with the top scoring offense in the nation. They do indeed at 91.1 points a game. Only team in the country averaging 90. The state of Alabama, by the way, has 4 teams inside the top 20 in scoring offense. Alabama, Auburn, Samford. Samford, by the way, is number 5.
Yeah, they've done a great job.
And UAB and AK down there at 19.
Yeah, Butta
4
Johnson.
Teams inside the top 20 in scoring offense.
A name so nice you got to say it twice.
Auburn, by the way, number 8. Kentucky, number 3. And Missouri, 15.
Have you discovered Good Company Cafe? The place for breakfast, brunch, lunch, and so much more. Enjoy brunch all day and pair with one of our many seasonal refreshing drinks, including alcoholic and non-alcoholic options. Choose inside or out.